Our Mayor Pro Tem, Michael Rudnick, has agreed to start us off with a brief invocation and to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you're able, please stand for the invocation and the pledge.
Bow your heads for a prayer. Dear God, thank you for this day. Thank you for allowing all of us to be together here in Mulberry to make decisions for our community. Thank you for allowing everyone in our community to be safe. Thank you for allowing the beautiful weather we're having today. And please guide us and direct us to make the best decisions possible for our community collectively so that we may guide this community to the most prosperous place possible. In your son's name we pray, amen. Amen. To remain standing for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. All right, I'm going to go ahead and start as we always do. I'm going to call the roll in order of districts. From District 1, we have Councilman Tim Sullivan.
Present.
District 2, Michael Coker, that is me, I am present. District 3, Councilman Kyle Shields.
Present.
District 4, Mayor Pro Tem, Michael Rudnick.
Present.
And then District 5, Councilman Doug Ingram.
Present.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, if you can notate that all 5 council members are here and present today. All right, that brings us to the mayor's opening comments. Thank you. We got a great turnout tonight. Thank you for being here for our meeting tonight. The only comment I did want to make is I wanted to congratulate one of our council members, our Mayor Pro Tem, Michael Rudnick, actually graduated today from, what was the degree?
Public Administration,
Master's in Public Administration. So we are much more educated now here on the Mulberry City Council. Congratulations. Does any of the council have opening comments they'd like to make?
I don't know.
Okay. Hearing none, we'll move right on. We have a new section, item G, which is the interim city manager's opening comments, which is Mr. Jamie Palmer. Do you have anything to add today?
I do. So there's been some discussion, as we've talked before, with mayor and council, and the public has seen about rezonings. There was a little bit over a dozen rezonings that were advertised. We have now, of those dozens of zonings, there was about 3 organizations who own the properties collectively. And so we've now met with 2 of those organizations, and we feel that as staff, with those conversations have been going on, we'd like to, kind of continue to just keep the rezonings on pause and work with these organizations to kind of meet in the middle. There are a lot of alignment in what the city's vision and what these organizations want to do with their property that meets, and we just want to see what we can do to kind of make sure that we can kind of continue that vision along with these organizations.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Palmer. All right, the next item is a consideration of tonight's meeting agenda for the agenda for May 8th, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. Has the council had an opportunity to review the agenda, and are there any amendments that need to be made?
I've reviewed, Mr. Mayor. I've just had a couple items I wanted to add. I talked to city manager about it, just informal staff direction items. So I have 2 items that I'd like to put on the agenda if I may.
Okay, if you'd like, go ahead and make your motion to amend the agenda.
Yeah, so I'll make a motion that we amend the agenda to include 2 items for informal staff direction for the council. And I'm not sure what motion, what letter that would be.
How about item G? How about G after the action items part 1? Does that work for you?
Yes.
Got it. So we have informal staff direction. Is that, you said there's another item as well?
2 informal staff direction items I'd like to discuss.
Okay. Do you want to elaborate what those 2 things are?
Yeah, sure can. So the first informal staff direction item is I'd like to have staff kind of research protocols in other cities and municipalities regarding current rental protocols for new home communities, specifically new home communities in Mulberry. And so the rationale behind this, and just some background for council, particularly in the 5th district, we have lots of new development, which is great. We have a lot of folks that are excited to be in Mulberry, which we're excited for. In the current economic climate, we can find some times where housing gets overbuilt, oversupplied, and a fallback position sometimes for developers is to lease those homes. So I'd like to explore that because I think we should put some parameters around. We certainly don't know where the economy will take us. But to have a new home development when I think the citizens are expecting that to be single-family residents that are in the community, and then they kind of turn into a quasi-apartment community, I think is something we should at least be cognizant of and talk through and make sure we understand the impact of that.
Okay, so I have an amendment, item G, research protocols for new home communities, okay? That's your first proposed amendment.
Research protocol around rental, a percentage of rental homes in new home communities.
Okay,
Yeah, rental, that's right. What that looks like in other communities. And
okay.
then maybe just present back to council what that looks like.
And you said there's another one as well?
Yeah, the second item, the second item is pretty simple. I know today we have ribbon cuttings as part of our kind of outreach into the community. I would love, there's a couple businesses in the area that are celebrating 20 years, 25 years in business. And I've talked to some of them, so I think it'd be awesome to be able to celebrate them as well. So we're celebrating the new businesses that are starting with a ribbon cutting, and then maybe we're also giving, a tip of the hat to businesses that have been great, folks in the community for Mulberry. So I'd like us to figure out how to do that.
Okay, yes, sir.
Okay, so I've got item H, a discussion about the protocols for celebrating new or existing businesses.
Yes, sir.
That suffice? Okay.
Yes, sir. Yep.
So we have a motion. Well, first off, I should ask, is there any other amendments that any of the other council wants to propose?
Yeah, I'd like to add one. In that same vein, I talked to Bill earlier, and I was gonna talk to Rebecca after, but I don't think she's here tonight. Anyway, I'd like to, in the same vein, do something to investigate and come up with an ordinance for short-term rentals in the community. I had a call from a constituent tonight about houses in their neighborhoods. They seem to be people coming and going every 3 and 4 days and renting out the basement on a short-term basis. And surely we don't want to let that be a wild, crazy city. Last thing we want is 200 people showing up to a party when they have a rental house.
Okay, so I've got item I, I've added proposal for discussion of research short-term rental proposals. Does that suffice?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pros and cons, yay or nay.
I have a question on that, Councilman Sawyer. That's more Airbnb kind of thing? Is that
In
what
that
it is?
vein,
In that
either,
vein,
either
okay.
owner directed by themselves, Facebook ads, and or, yeah.
And hold on, I'm sorry, gentlemen, I do want to caution you, we're not discussing the item now, we're just making the motion
Yes.
to add it to the agenda. We'll discuss it when it comes up. So far I've got 3 proposed amendments. One, research protocols for rental caps for new and existing home communities. A discussion of celebrations for new and existing businesses. Then I've got I, discussion, research, short-term rental proposals. Does that suffice?
Yeah.
Any other amendments? Okay, hearing none, then I will, you're testing my Roberts rules here. Do we need to vote on the amendment here, or are we gonna vote on them all at the same time?
Well,
Is it an
there
amendment?
have been 2 motions made.
2 motions.
Okay,
Okay.
so the first motion you vote on first, second motion you vote on second. If you only had one motion, you could consolidate that. You could say, I make a motion to adopt the agenda as proposed the amendment. But since you have 2, actually you have 2 motions that you've not called for a vote on. So you really need to go ahead and do the
Okay.
first one first and
So
then the second.
let's first take up the first motion to amend the agenda, which was item G, to add to the agenda research protocol for rental caps for new and existing communities, and then H, celebration of new and existing businesses. So we have a motion. Do I have a second for those 2 items to be added
I'll
to the
second
agenda?
it.
Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All opposed? All right, by a vote of 5, that amendment passes. We'll now vote on the second amendment, which is item I under action items part 1, which is discussion and research short-term rental proposals. We have a motion from Councilman Sullivan on that second amendment. Do I have a second?
No second.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? All opposed? All right. So that amendment also passes. So at this time, I will make a motion to adopt the Mulberry City Council regular meeting agenda for May the 8th, 2025 as amended. Do I have a second?
No second.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? All opposed? All right, by a vote of 5, the Mulberry City Council regular meeting agenda for May the 8th, 2025 is hereby adopted as amended. All right, moving right along. The next item is item I, the consideration of the April 17th, 2025 meeting minutes. Has the council had the opportunity to review those meeting minutes as presented? All right, then at this time I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to adopt the April 17th, 2025 minutes as presented.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councilman Sullivan. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call a vote. All in favor? All opposed? All right, was that a yes? Okay. By a vote of 5, the Mulberry City Council regular meeting draft minutes for April 17th, 2025 as presented are hereby adopted. All right, second set we have on here, item J, is the consideration of the April 29, 2025 minutes. Is there any errors or omissions from these minutes? Hearing none, I will take a motion.
I'll make a motion to adopt April 29, 2025 Mulberry council meetings as presented.
Okay, so we have a motion from Councilman Ingram. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call a vote. All in favor? Can I see the vote again? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, by a vote of 5, the April 29th, 2025 meeting minutes as presented are hereby adopted. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to item K, which is our public comment section. Madam Clerk, I don't know, has anyone signed up to make a public comment this evening?
No one is signed up.
Okay. All right. So hearing that there are no public comments, I will go ahead and close the public comments for this evening. That will bring us first to item L, which is a second read of ordinance 2025-04143 pertaining to aggressive solicitation. The city attorney, Bill Riley, I'll let you present this.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is the same ordinance that you had a first read on last week. This is a ordinance, this companion ordinance to the urban camping ordinance that you previously posted. This is aggressive panhandling. While begging for alms is a constitutionally protected occurrence, there are limitations that you can make on it. This has the limitations that have been already sorted out through the court cases. That means you can't, for instance, near financial institutions, ATMs, can't go into the public street to beg for alms. You can't beg for alms after you've been told to not do it. If you come back afterwards, you can't. You can't intimidate people to beg for alms. And that is the substance of what we're asking you today. These are the kinds of things that we will be addressing as we have code enforcement and other individuals that would enforce these kinds of opportunities. In the code enforcement context, we will just be serving them with summons to bring them to court.
Any questions for the city attorney? All right, hearing none, then I will make a motion to adopt ordinance 2025-04143, which is an ordinance dealing with aggressive solicitation. Do I have a second?
I'll make a second.
Thank you, Councilman Sullivan. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call a vote. All in favor? All opposed? All right, by a vote of 5, ordinance number 2025-04143 pertaining to aggressive solicitation is hereby adopted. Sorry, Brady. All right. Okay, next on the agenda is the action items M. The first one is consideration of authorization of Georgia Municipal Association District 3 nomination. I will present this to the council. So I was contacted by Mr. Larry Hansen, who's the executive director of the Georgia Municipal Association. Every every 2 years, the Georgia Municipal Association nominates an individual to represent our district, basically as part of their organization. And so they have nominated 2 individuals. The first one is they've nominated for President Allison Wilkerson, the mayor of the city of Grayson. And then the vice president is Manfred Rader, the council member for the city of Duluth. They are asking us to agree to this. They said they'd like to have the support of all the local cities as far as for their nomination. So I am bringing this in front of you to make sure that I am authorized to move forward with basically acknowledging that our city agrees with those appointments. So is there any questions or discussion anybody has about this particular item?
Yeah, does any of us know these people, or anything about their character, or who they are?
I've met Mayor Wilkerson from the city of Grayson. She's very good. She's been very kind to us here at the city of Mulberry, as far as offering advice, and she is somebody who has been a big supporter of making sure that if anything we need, she's been there for us. So I do know her. I cannot speak for the council member from the city of Duluth. Any other questions or discussions about that?
No, these folks, yeah, the president will be president of all of GMA, just not like president of the group we're in.
So
The
no,
district we're in?
so this is just the GMA's District 3. So
Okay.
we're District 3.
So District 3 has a president.
Correct.
Okay.
So this would be the president of our district of the, and for those in the audience, GMA is the Georgia Municipal Association. It's an organization of all the cities collectively. And so this is their proposal for the leaders for our specific district. Any other questions? Then at this time, I'll make a motion to approve this ballot as presented, and will authorize me as the mayor to sign on behalf of the city in favor of the nominees as presented. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Any discussion? All right, hearing none, I'll call a vote. All in favor? All opposed? All right. By a vote of 5, it's unanimous that the ballot is approved and that I will execute on behalf of the city in favor of those appointments. Okay, the next item is another item that I had requested to be on the agenda, action item B. It's a discussion and selection of point of contacts for virtual joint information center. So the Gwinnett County Department of Emergency Management has requested that there be one individual that will be their primary point of contact. They have told me that for most cities, that individual tends to be the city manager as the primary point of contact. And so what this is if Gwinnett County has urgent emergency information that they need to push out to the community. Okay, so this is not they're telling us, this or that. I mean, there will be some emergency communications, but it's more so for the public to basically get the information as quick as possible. And so for most cities, they select as the point of contact as the city manager of the city. So they reach out to that city manager has the responsibility of disseminating that information to the public in that city. So, I'm open to whatever discussion you guys would like. I think our city manager would do a great job with that. I have no problem appointing him, but I'm open to y'all's suggestions or recommendations.
Works for me.
Yeah.
Good?
Okay. It's okay with the
Yeah.
Are you okay?
I'm good with it.
For that already.
Okay, then just for purposes to keep it clean, then I'll make the motion to appoint Jamie Palmer as the point of contact for the Virtual Joint Information Center with the Gwinnett County Department of Emergency Management. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Shields. Any discussion?
I have one point of discussion I just thought of.
Sure.
Do we, is the protocol regarding contact from the virtual, so as you get contacted in scenarios around emergencies or otherwise, I would just say we probably need to make sure the protocol is well established of how that gets disseminated out to the rest of council, mayor, et cetera.
Absolutely, yeah, no, y'all will be the first contact I make, and then we get everything out to Channel of Faith, Bill, get it out to the public as soon as possible, as far as getting out on social or any other form of communication that we can.
And I'll say this too, is that very rarely does the county activate this. I want to say that she was telling me like they haven't activated it in years because there hasn't been a serious enough event for this. But I mean, as we all learned, right, I don't know how many of you were around for the the incident that was in Conyers, or the where, you know, you went up outside, it was very hazy. So obviously this is important. I agree that to have proper protocols in place to make sure that information gets out to the public is important.
And to the mayor's point, that's one thing that they had talked about, was that, you know, though this hadn't been activated in a long time, they wanted to bring the committee back together and start things back up, to make sure that all of the cities and the county were on the same page with this.
Sure, agreed. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? All right, hearing none, I'll call a vote. All in favor? All opposed? All right, it's unanimous by a vote of 5 that the city manager, Jamie Palmer, will be the point of contact for Gwinnett County Emergency Management's Virtual Joint Information Center. That brings us to item C, which is consideration of council retreat proposal. City Manager Palmer, I know this was your item. I'll let you present it.
Yeah, good evening. In line with everything else we've been doing for the last couple of months, we're getting ready for our comprehensive plan. Along that comes with trying to put together our mission, vision statement, setting the goals of the city, things of that nature that are, you know, kind of on mayor and council to kind of really give staff direction on. So, though we've worked through some of that to get to where we are right now with the comprehensive plan, a big part of that is going to be getting a mission, vision statement together, as well as doing some kind of deep dive work for about 8 hours or so. We want to make sure we get enough time, so there's going to be some, in that proposal, you'll see like the night before, to give y'all some time to kind of get there, get rested, and then so we can get to work, right? The idea is to try to have, like I said, a night and a full days of work. We're looking at either the 6th or the 7th of June, or the 9th or 10th of June. We want to make sure that all of you all can be there. So in the proposal, you'll see we're bringing in the Carl Vinson Institute from the University of Georgia to kind of help facilitate this conversation. This is something that the Carl Vinson Institute does for almost every municipality here, and we'll be honored to kind of have them help guide us as we start with the city. So before you, you'll have a proposal for just shy of $6,000 to be able to put this all together. Right now, I'm asking for your approval to approve the amount, not to exceed $6,000, for us to negotiate the dates, as well as one night stay and any food or anything else, and travel for our facilitator to kind of put this together.
Any questions for the city manager?
I have one, Mr. Mayor. So
Yes.
So I know we've had, so number one, great job. So I know this has been a lot of work, and good choice on the shoes.
Thanks.
There, looks good. So the question I was gonna have is, obviously this is very important that we all get circle the wagons and understand kind of, you know, there's some critical things we need to cover in this. And I know we've been having a challenge with getting the schedule aligned with everybody. Do we believe, so will this happen only when we have 5 council members there?
This will only happen once we have 5 council members.
Okay.
But for budgetary purposes,
Sure.
I needed to go ahead and start looking at dates.
Sure.
Right?
Okay.
So
Gotcha.
now we're making sure that everybody can kind of get together
Sure.
within a certain time frame.
Right.
The 6th and the 7th is put on the proposal primarily because that was the majority of everyone.
Okay.
Right? We think the 9th and the 10th may work.
Okay.
But even if that is that, we're gonna look at every other weekend that we can to try to make it work, alright?
Okay, gotcha.
The other big part of this is, for the purposes of trying to hit that deadline and getting, before we have the final draft completed of the comprehensive plan,
Mhm.
we need to get that before you all, to have a look at after we start really getting through our public input meetings.
Right.
We are looking to work with DCA to see if we can get a little bit of an extension, right? But that June 30th deadline is coming up pretty quick, right?
Yeah.
So, now we're getting ready for public input, now we're getting ready for the other additional items. And again, public, I wanna say thank you to the developers who are working with us, because the fact that, you know, it was, that rezoning portion was gonna be big, but they're willing to come to the table and, you know, figure out they wanna build the best city for this area as well, right? So that's big, having the public-private partnership, not just here at the site right off of Brownston Highway, but we met again with other developers too. So we're now in the crux of making sure that the city truly comes to life with this comprehensive plan. And so this is gonna be really big to try to have this meeting in June.
Gotcha. It's great, thank you for explaining that. So I don't know, can we put conditionality around the approval with respect to
Yes, sir.
five council
We can do
member
it.
attendance and whoever else, or whatever we think that full attendance looks like. I just think it's a really important part of the puzzle to make sure that we all have the input. You know?
Absolutely. And just for y'all's understanding too, right, we're gonna do this twofold for this year. In the future, we'll probably do it just as one, but what I mean by twofold is this, right? You all set the vision and the mission for the city, okay? You all set the goals and the dreams that the citizens have enacted this in, all right? We need to get that out of you all on paper into the plan, and then take from that to have a staff version of this that we'll do kind of in-house after that meeting and after the plan is
Sure.
so similar to y'all's, we'll go through a SWOT analysis, we'll go through how we break down the mission and vision statement that you all have aligned, and how we can implement that inside of the office. And then next year, we will look at setting our updates for the comprehensive plan based upon a collective goal,
Yeah.
that we can all kind of get out there and get done.
Yeah.
So, to answer your question, you can set any parameter that you want to. My only request is that we try to get this
Move quickly.
move quickly in June. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Well, thanks for all the efforts. I think it's great. I think that, yeah, I just would indicate somehow we put some conditions, around it, that we're all present.
I'm free this weekend.
Pretty
done.
Hey, let's go.
Yeah, and I'll second that. I mean, obviously, we were all elected for a purpose, right, to represent our district. And so this is gonna be a very important meeting where we're gonna be looking at the comprehensive plan, right? And so to not have somebody there is gonna be a district that's not represented. And so, we really need to make every attempt. It's gonna be hard to coordinate 5 schedules, and I get that, but we really need to do what we can to move heaven and earth to make this happen. So, just wanna kind of say that as well. Is there any other questions for Mr. Palmer about the proposal, or any other discussion about it? Okay, then hearing none, I will, well, did you have a proposed, I guess what you say, stipulation? or-
Motion of, yeah, you want me to make a motion to amend this? or
Why don't you
what's the
make it,
best
why
way?
don't you make your motion with your whatever stipulation, and then we can discuss that motion, and if someone wants to amend that motion, they can.
Okay, I do have one additional question before I make the motion. So the attendees, so we've got, the attendees are, obviously council, and then yourself, who,
City clerk and city attorney.
gotcha,
Yeah.
okay, all right.
Part of that too is it is open meeting, right?
Sure.
Because you all.
100%, 100%,
Right? So we
absolutely.
have to make sure that the clerk is there.
And out of those 8 total, your opinion, mandatory that all 8,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha, okay, perfect. So, so on this, I guess the motion, let me just see where we're at here. So,
I have one quick question. It also says 7 guest rooms. We need more than,
We're gonna need 8.
okay.
Yeah.
okay,
Again, the purpose of this proposal was to
Okay.
put it together so I can get
I
the figure.
gotcha, okay.
Right, so I had to get everything outlined and
Yeah,
where we're at.
I got you.
okay. So, Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion that we, a motion for consideration of council retreat proposal with the additional language that, the conditionality is that that 8 persons are in attendance, 5 council members, city manager, city attorney, and city clerk.
Not to exceed 6,000.
Yeah.
Not to exceed $6,000.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, the Mayor Pro Tem, thank you. Any discussion about that motion, as proposed? Okay, hearing none, then I will call a vote. All in favor? All opposed? All right, by a vote of 5, the motion carries, for the proposal not to exceed $6,000, and that all 8 individuals, including the 5 council members, the city manager, the city attorney, and the city clerk will all be present. All right, thank you. All right, moving on to item D, which is consideration of resolution 2025-0538, the zoning board of appeals. Our community development director, Ms. Rebecca Kiefer, is here to present that item.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. This item tonight is to seat the zoning board of appeals, which is the quasi-judicial body of the city. So they will hear any kind of variances that come, and any applicants or residents' requests to depart from the ordinances as they are today. So what this does, it does not open the gates to allow variance requests just yet, since that's still handled under the moratorium. This would just seat the board and allow us to do some initial training to then be ready to be able to accept this.
Any questions for Ms. Kiefer?
Yeah, it's and I may be dead wrong, but it's always been my impression that the process was, you go to planning, and they either say yay or nay, you go to the council and they say no. The applicant gets upset. Instead of suing, they go to the zoning board of appeals, and that's all they hear. Is that correct or no?
So, no, what the ordinance allows is both, variances and you're right, there are, kind of other decisions that go before them. So they are appeals of administrative decisions. So if there's an interpretation or a decision that we make as staff, and they don't agree with it and have, you know, factual reasons as such, then they can appeal to the zoning board of appeals to, you know, kind of hear their case.
So then they would get variances and the planning commission would not? Am I getting it right?
Yeah,
Okay.
there are concurrent variances though, so if
Okay.
there's a, rezoning that's going through and there are also variances associated with that property, we do have enabled the ability for planning commission to hear those concurrent with the rezoning, so you ultimately would be the final
Okay.
decision on those.
And just so the members of the public know, the 5 individuals that were selected, there is one from each of the 5 districts. So each of the individual council members have selected one individual to appoint, have presented to the mayor, and the mayor has given the approval of those 5 individuals. So, any other questions for Ms. Kiefer?
I have one question, Mr. Mayor. What is the, thank you for presenting that. What's the typical cadence of how quickly these folks are meeting? Like, what's the, is it?
It's a monthly is what the
Got it.
schedule we have, as, you
Okay.
know, as applications come before them.
Got it. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, hearing none, I will take a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 202505-38 zoning board of appeals as presented.
Okay, we have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a second from the mayor pro tem, any discussion?
If any of those people are here, maybe they wanna just stand up and introduce themselves after we vote on this?
Sure, that'd be great, that sounds great. And let's do that, let's call a vote on this, and then I'll read the names and we can introduce them if they're here. Okay, then, any other discussion before we call a vote? Hearing none, I'll call a vote, all in favor? All opposed? All right, by a vote of 5, it is unanimous, resolution 2025-0538 is hereby adopted. And the 5 individuals that were selected for the zoning board of appeals are from District 1, Brenda Melanson, District 2, Eileen Troy, District 3, Clark Jensen, District 4, Chester Nowak, and
Nowak.
District 5, Kevin, or how do I say it, Nowak?
Nowak.
Nowak, thank you. 4, Chester Nowak, and District 5, Kevin Arocha. So those are the 5 individuals. If any of you have your individual here, you can have them stand and introduce them.
Hi, I am Brenda Melanson. I live off Hamilton Mill Road, obviously District 1. And yeah, 3 kids in this district that go to school, and that's it.
Awesome, thank you. Thank you for serving the city, we appreciate it.
I'm excited.
Awesome. All right, anyone else? Nope? Okay, hearing none. All right, then we are, let me sign this real quick. We'll move on. All right, the next item we have is item E, which is a presentation of Sourcewell. That's gonna be.
Yeah, so, I'll make a couple comments. This is Jonathan Cash. We had a conversation beforehand about, our purchasing policy, and then, we had brought up what Sourcewell is. I wanted to bring someone in who handles Sourcewell to kind of just give a presentation on what that is. And if you all would like to add it to our policy, we can discuss that at a later date. But I felt that with the city being new, and me lacking the knowledge of what, how Sourcewell works in detail, I wanted to bring somebody in who can give a presentation to you all on that. And that's all it is. There's no action item here. It's just a presentation. So I'm gonna turn it over to Jonathan.
Welcome, Jonathan. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate your time, gentlemen. I have prepared something that is concise and succinct, that'll give you a general overview, and then we can open it to questions now or after. I'll be around after.
Okay, great.
So Sourcewell represents a variant of contracting called IDIQ, that's indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity. And basically what that means is the state, through the Sourcewell Corporation, which is a part of the Minnesota government, has reached out and they put together what is called a cooperative. And what that does is that combines your purchasing power with the purchasing power of every other municipality, administration, and organization in the state of Georgia. So when I come to you for a renovation that you need in an office or a police station or something like that, you're not paying the typical overhead that you do to a construction management company. You're paying your overhead times plus everybody else's divided out over the aggregate. So that is one of the benefits. The other benefit is we pride ourselves on being fast and efficient, as well as combining the purchasing power. Because what they have done is they've partnered with a company called Gordian. Gordian produces unit price books. Back in the 40s, a guy named Robert Snow, an engineer, started putting together meticulous notes on the cost of building things, to the point that other people started buying his notes. And that turned into a company called RS Means, which is still one of the gold standards. We do not use RS Means on this particular one. We use the other gold standard, which is Gordian. So Gordian provides kind of a third-party review, as well as the unit price book. So when I say unit price book, I'm talking about a book that if you were to print it out is roughly 3,000 or 4,000 pages, with somewhere between 40 and 50,000 line items that cover everything from, your average civil work, drainage pipe, grading, erosion control, all the way through renovations, the drywall, the ceiling, the lights, the fire alarms, the fire extinguishers, pretty much everything you can think of. They break it down into line items to the point that, your average renovation is probably gonna be 100 so line items. They give us that book, the state does, and they put it out to bid. And the way that we bid these projects is we put together a coefficient, a factor. Basically, we take the aggregate of the book and we say that we need whatever percent of that, whether it's a negative percent, like 98%, or positive percent, like, 105%, just to make, that covers our margin overhead. And that's how we bid it, and that's how they select us. So once we're selected, basically between the unit price book and the established prices and our pre-bid coefficient, these projects are essentially pre-bid. So at that point, when you have a project, you can come to Sourcewell. We will do a pre-scope walk, put together a scope. That is approved both by the client and Gordian. Gordian is your third-party expert in this scenario. Beyond the scope, we put together a price for any kind of project, and that is again approved by Gordian before it is sent to whoever you've appointed at your city to look over that. What this does for you is it speeds up the procurement process, and it also lowers administrative cost. For most cities, they project it's a 24% savings on procurement costs. So we also bring things like architectural design if you need it, so that you don't have to worry about that. And they also put together things like RFPs, the contract bid documents, stuff like that is already taken care of, and I'm sure Mr. Palmer can tell you how much effort that goes into putting that kind of stuff together. So, a couple of example jobs. Very recently, we've renovated both the Smyrna Police Department and their fire station, one of their fire stations. We renovated for the Department of Driver Services, we did one of their major hubs in Atlanta, on the verge of the election, so you can imagine there was a little bit of a pressure there. Nobody wanted to see one of the major driver services shut down right before the election. The Georgia National Guard uses us quite a bit. Those are some of our bigger jobs. Those are multi-million-dollar renovations to their posts. City of East Point, we just converted one of their warehouses into additional office space. We also have a contract with Fort Campbell in Kentucky, where we're on a multi-year contract doing all kinds of renovations and things like that for them. So we are established across the state of Georgia. We're established across the region in the southeast. And as Osprey, for Osprey, what we like to do is we like to take the highest standard that we're given. So for example, most places that's either the Georgia National Guard or the Army through Fort Campbell. And we like to bring that and apply that to all of our customers. So the specs and the standards and the expectations that we get from the Army at the federal government level is something that we will bring to a place like Mulberry. We bring it to Smyrna, we bring it to East Point, we bring it to Kennesaw, we can bring it here as well. So.
Awesome. Any questions from the council?
So, yeah, I got one. So you're talking about major projects and such, you're not our source for copier paper, stuff like that, right?
No, sir.
Okay,
I believe that they supply that, but that's not what this particular contract is about. So, this is just about easing the procurement process for construction.
gotcha, okay.
But you can use Sourcewell for anything.
I believe so.
Yeah,
We're just not on that end of it.
yeah.
I know they do fleet management and they do just everyday materials. A lot of the schools, the boards of education, they use them to supply paper, pens, things like that across the board.
So my point of wanting to make sure that we have this presentation is have someone, again, that is way more knowledgeable than I am about this, to kind of just talk about Sourcewell in general, for a host of reasons, right? This is something that if we put it inside of our purchasing policy, that we could use for things like paper, things like renovations, things like, fleet if we ever get to that point. So it's, something that I wanted to make sure was presented to you all so that you could hear it from someone other than me for when we get ready to finish putting, the purchasing policy together.
And the legal framework's already there. Georgia DOAS, they've had Sourcewell since 2016. It's in the Georgia codes in section 36 and 50, I believe. So all the legal framework's already there. It's just about whether or not you gentlemen would like to use it.
Awesome. Any other questions?
I have a couple, I'll try to be quick. So is it for-profit or non-profit? It's a co-op, right? Is that Sourcewell?
Sourcewell is nonprofit. They're actually a
Right.
Minnesota-based
Gotcha.
organization. Minnesota just happened to put together the framework ahead of everybody else.
Gotcha.
This
Gotcha.
whole model came over with the Air Force from Europe in the 90s.
Just trying to aggregate,
Yeah.
spend
And
or
then
whatever.
Minnesota put together something that everybody could use, so we
Gotcha.
cut and paste.
Gotcha. And does it, if we use Sourcewell, does it preclude us from also getting other bids or no?
No.
Does not? Okay,
No.
gotcha.
And again, this was just something to see.
Sure.
This is, like, when I bring back the purchasing policy,
Yeah.
added in the other things that you all had mentioned. I think it was, Mayor Pro Tem Rudnick who had said, they use it in the municipality that he works in.
Yeah.
So making sure that I kind of had that part vetted for you all before we got into more questions about what Sourcewell is. Again, I wanted to make sure that someone was able to kind of come in and speak on it a little bit more knowledgeable than I am.
Yeah, so just to clarify that point, so this is different from a hard bid, like you put out an RFP and you take in numbers, because this is a pre-bid. The con that most people see is we're not bidding this and we're not sure if we're getting the most bang for our buck. And what I like to tell people is, like I said, we pre-bid this. This is a competitive bid to beat on this contract. The other thing that it does for you is it becomes a contract of convenience. So, and I'm sure Mr. Palmer can tell you plenty of horror stories about low bid situations
Sure.
and the kind of contractors you sometimes get stuck with. Contract of convenience makes this a service contract for me as much as it is a construction contract, i.e., it doesn't matter if I come in and do the whole job and get all the money I want. You guys never have to use me again. Doesn't matter if I'm low bid because it's not a low bid situation. So what we do is we pride ourselves on, customer service as well as the construction expertise. Because I want to come in, I want to do a job for a price that you're happy about, so that you continue to use the convenience contract and continue to call me back.
Gotcha, yeah, okay, makes sense. And the last question I have for you, I'm just curious, but I think you just spoke to it. So, because of the co-op angle and you're kind of, aggregating spend, who's actually doing the work? Does it go through kind of a central office and then it goes out to, or are you guys actually the ones?
I'm a GC. We are the pointy
You're
of the spear.
attached to.
You will have my
that.
superintendents, my project managers, my subcontractors out here doing the work for you.
Gotcha, okay.
I think there's some confusion. He's with,
Yes, I'm with
He
Osprey.
is with a company.
yeah, he's
Right.
with a
He is with a
construction company.
That's what kind of guiding
And
this
so
not to
he-
one
he's not-
direction.
He's not with Sourcewell, but he's very familiar with Sourcewell and the process,
Right.
and their company is,
So you have to be one of the entities that Sourcewell would go to
Correct.
to
Right.
get it
We,
done.
we bid on the contract. We put
Right.
together our
Gotcha.
coefficient. So
Yeah.
we were selected to be on the
That's,
contract.
yeah, the third question I was gonna ask, but you just answered, was in scenarios where Sourcewell, cause I thought you were Sourcewell, when we're procuring with them, and then that goes to the next contractor, like who do we, cause it's not uncommon to have issues. It's just a matter how you work through them, and sometimes in those commingled environments, well, talk to the person in Minnesota, or talk to this guy, or whatever, so that's what I was trying to find out, so that makes sense, thank you, appreciate it.
And just to clarify, Gordian would be your best outlet. And Jamie, who did you meet with Gordian? Was it Barry?
Barry, yeah.
Barry? So Gordian's gonna be your best outlet to go through. Sourcewell works with DOAS.
Okay.
They work at that level. Gordian and your contractor, which hopefully will be honest, they work at the pointing to the Spirit.
DOAS is the Department of Administrative Services, that they coordinate purchasing contracts, bids for the state of Georgia, and then other municipalities are able to piggyback off of those contracts so that they don't have to, the thousands of cities in Georgia go out and bid things themselves. They do a lot of legwork for cities of Georgia.
Gotcha. Thank you, appreciate it.
Any other questions? All right, hearing none, thank you very much, we appreciate the information. Okay, that will bring us to item F under action items, recognition of city clerks week. So this week is municipal city clerks week, and so it is the week that we kind of honor and say thank you to our city clerk. And we have, I think, the best city clerk in the state of Georgia, with Miss Chandler Face Pitts. And so we just wanted to take a moment to recognize her, to acknowledge the hard work she does. She spends countless hours. It's not uncommon for me to get a call from her at 9 o'clock at night, and she's frantically typing up meeting minutes and this or that, and she has been an absolute blessing to us in the start of this city. Not just in the sense of taking notes or being here, but also actually being somebody who's organized, who understands how this process works, who has taken multiple training classes on her time, to go and train and to learn more of how to be a city clerk. And so on behalf of myself, I appreciate all you're doing, Chandler Faith, and I want to say thank you. Would anyone else like to say anything?
Here.
Yeah, I would as well.
Agreed. Where's the cake?
For those that don't know, you said my son's magic word, cake.
I saw that.
Huh? So for those that are here that don't know her story, she, during the transition period, would come and take notes and learn and listen and kind of figure out what's going on with the city. And I'm not sure if it was Mayor Coker or someone else noticed this young lady very engaged. And so when we became a city, we needed a clerk, and we approached her and said, would you be interested in doing some clerk work for us? Unfortunately, we just can't pay you. And she was like, yeah, absolutely. I don't know who would say yes to that question, but she did. And so for the first, 45, 60 days, she essentially worked for free. And you don't find that very often, especially in a young lady of her generation. So we're very thankful for you, the work that you put in, hours and hours worth of work. She's never clerked before, but by the preparation that we get in our packets, you would never know that. And like Mayor Coker said, she's done hours and hours of training, and I'm extremely thankful that we have her, because clerks make cities go around. They really do.
Yeah.
So, I just wanna say, she has been caught up on pay. So you might want to make sure that that's clarified. But, and Channel Faith, honestly, seriously, I want to echo everything that they've said. We could not function without you. Thank you for all that you do for the city. Thank you for everything that you do to make sure that we continue to run properly. Bill and I would be very heartbroken if you were not here. So again, thank you for being here. Thank you for the job you've done. Thank you for sticking to it when really no one else would. So
Yes,
You gonna make her blush?
absolutely. I have just one quick thing, Mr. Ray. I would say that, I think when, with all of the, sometimes the discussion around the city of Mulberry can get pretty heated from both sides. And your spirit of optimism and your enthusiasm and get it done is really nice. And I'd like to think that when all the dust settles on the city of Mulberry, that, those for, against, whatever, that we can all kind of have a little bit of Chandler faith in us and have that spirit. So, great job.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to, which was the first item presented by amendment, which was the informal staff direction to research protocols for rental caps and new home communities. Councilman Ingram, since this was kind of your brainchild, I'll turn it over to you and let you start the discussion.
Yeah, sorry. So I think I can keep it brief. And again, just what I would recommend is, so we've had a scenario And I know, I've been approached by folks in the district, in the fifth district about this. I know others.
District 3, yeah.
Hamiltonville, et cetera. And I think we have an interesting scenario where we have single-family homes that are getting built, and that's an awesome thing for our city. Sometimes those products they get built very quickly without enough marketing behind them. And when you have an interest rate climate that's as high as where we're at right now, that can kind of create some headwinds to get that product sold. So we have, at times, out-of-state development entities that will rely on a crutch, which is to turn those communities into rental home communities. And so I think everybody on council is for affordable housing, and we want Mulberry to be a great city. But we don't want to have a vehicle that is effectively a glorified apartment vehicle masked as a single-family residential product, right? So we want to just create some opportunity, just like an HOA, sometimes we'll put in their covenants some parameters around what is the percentage of rental homes that could be allowed in that HOA. I think we need to have a strong discussion about what that looks like for the city. Yeah.
Well, I can speak with our community development director, Rebecca, and we can see what we can do to put something together and get something before you all. If not the next council meeting, the following one after that.
That'd be great.
Do we need to call a vote on that, or is that good? Do you?
I think we're fine with that. But
Just direction.
yeah,
Just direction, okay. Then if there's nothing else on that item, we'll move to what was become item H, which is another informal staff direction to discuss the celebration of the recognition of new and existing businesses within the city. Councilman Ingram, I'll turn it back over to you for this one.
Yeah, this one's super quick. I think we have a vehicle today for new businesses, because obviously it's really important that, and we will celebrate new businesses that are starting in Mulberry. So we have a ribbon cutting, so if anybody knows new businesses starting in Mulberry, we should talk about that and get them to you, right, and Chandler Faith. But we also have a number of businesses that are doing great things for our community. And we have one in particular that this is kind of spurred at Countryside Montessori off Fence Road. So they're celebrating 20 years in May, and I mean, we've had countless students go through there that have gone on to do great things. So we'd like to kind of celebrate them, and I suspect there's a lot of other businesses like that in Mulberry that, you know, being in a community for 20 years or longer or slightly shorter, it's something that we should probably celebrate. So I just would like to figure out a way to get them on the docket.
absolutely. So we are, Joy and Chandler Faith are working right now we have 3 businesses that are getting ready to open.
Yeah.
And we're scheduling the ribbon cuttings for those. You all will see that soon.
Wow.
But similar to that, any business that's been around for years in this area, we'd love to celebrate you all.
Yeah.
And kind of, you know, do something, maybe have a little anniversary party, put something together, and, you know, let everybody know that we're all here, be grateful in the community together.
Yeah, what I'm envisioning, Jamie, as you guys talk about it in staff, is maybe, you know, a calendar, maybe a shout out on the website, maybe, I don't know what exactly it looks like, maybe you know, something that just is kind of the tip of the hat, that we care about them and we're proud that they've achieved that milestone, whatever that looks like.
Okay. Yeah, we can put something together and get it to you all.
All right, that moves to our last item that was amended, which is item I, which is an informal staff direction concerning a discussion to research short-term rental proposals. I'll turn that over to Councilman Sullivan.
Yeah, I got a call from a constituent tonight about what him and his neighbors appear to believe somebody in our subdivision is renting out their basement on short term, like the weekend or 3 days in the middle of the week. So there's constantly people coming and going. It makes you a little suspicious. You don't know who folks are. It's a transient situation. And worst case scenario, you know, somebody rents out their basement and they invite 50 of their friends over to have a big party in the backyard. And you've seen that on the news quite a bit. So I would really like us to develop an ordinance that puts some wrapping around that as to what's allowed based on either Gwinnett or cities in the area, you know, maybe some of the nicer cities as opposed to some of the worser cities. But just put some reins on that and have some rules and that permitting process and that sort of thing.
Yes, sir. So, we have done some legwork on this a little bit, so I can kind of fill you in on what has been completed. You usually have your Airbnb and your Vrbo that do these short-term rentals for, you know, days or weeks at a time. A lot of times cities have contracted out to communicate with those companies to get the hotel motel tax from them. We've reached out to one of those companies who is kind of helping assist us to kind of find out who they're paying those hotel motel taxes to try to find that out. But we need the information that we're also working on with the Census Bureau for our certified population data, right? So there's some things that we need for other reasons from the Census Bureau, but all that information can be used to try to kind of go after short-term rental and put something together. That is kind of where we're at with it. In the meantime, we can craft an ordinance, and kind of look at that. And then once we have the other information that we need, like our FIPS code and all that, we can then start to see what we can do about hotel motel tax related to short-term rental.
All right.
Cool, very good.
That concludes all the action items in part one, which brings us to item N, which is the executive session. Are we gonna have an executive session tonight?
No, sir.
Okay. All right, then I will make a motion to take executives, to not go into executive session. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Councilman Sullivan, any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call a vote. All in favor? All opposed? All right, by a vote of 5, executive session is hereby removed from the agenda. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that'll conclude for this evening. I want to say thank you. Brady's ready to get out of here, but I want to say thank you for everyone for being here and taking the time to come in and listen and kind of learn and see how the city's operating, how things are running. We appreciate everybody being in engagement and working with us, and we appreciate your time, but we hope everybody drives home safe. So at this time, I will make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call a vote. All in favor? All opposed? All right, by a vote of 5, we're hereby adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.
Oh,